Am I allowed to say storm? You're going to go to hospital right now. Tomorrow you're going to have an operation, or in a day or two you could be completely blind.
Girls.
Girls, marijuana,
and girls.
Speaking. Sorry, I lost track.
No, every time you say knife crimes, I laugh too.
I don't think there was ever a time where I thought I was an alcoholic. It was literally just what you did. Everything just kind of like, this back pain, this enormity of I'm about to become a dad.
So being able to kind of break the trend of whatever rut or groove you've gotten yourself into, that's, I think, kind of the basis of what being in your middle ages is. Hi, everybody. This is Dan and Dante, and you're watching Middle Age Mess, a show where we don't really talk about the golden years. It's more the golden shower years. So, things are going to be falling apart right about now. And the questions we ask on this show are, how did I get here? Where did my hair go? And what's wrong with my back? I'm really excited to have our guest today because he's going to tell us a lot about his journey through all these trials and tribulations of middle age, although he's still a baby. Mike Maddox, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Dan. Happy to be here.
Great. So, Mike, I was looking at your website earlier. You are right on point. I mean, you are our guy here at Middle Age Mess. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got here today?
I'm from the UK, and right now I'm living in Barcelona in Spain.
Barcelona. Please, Mike. Come on, you're local.
Yeah, it depends on which part of Spain you're from. Okay. If you're from Madrid, then you're going to have more of a.
And I'm American. I think everybody outside of Los Angeles is the same, so don't worry about
it. Basically, when I hit about 40 years old, am I allowed to say shitstorm?
Please say fucking shitstorm if it makes you feel better.
Fucking shitstorm land on my plate, and as well as a terribly bad back and the hair loss. And the hair growth as well.
Yeah, we're like twins, Mike, you and I. You're just slightly better looking.
I just plucked an eyebrow hair out of my eyebrow that I have no idea where it was going.
Yeah.
Let me just go back and tell a little bit of the story, because where I want to get to is how taking a break from alcohol, aged 44, helped me to become a much better parent and changed my life in so many ways when I really didn't expect it.
Well, that's huge. Well, let's talk about your drinking before you were 44. What? I mean, you're from England, so I assume you were a drunk most of the time, right?
It depends on what part of my life we're talking about. But at one point, I was in hospital with pneumonia because I'd slept in a girl's shed because her dad wouldn't let me into the house after a nightclub.
At least he's a good dad. He's a good dad. Let's be honest.
Yeah. She'd invited me back to. We were like 20. She'd invited me back to her place. Her dad didn't like the look of me, kicked me out, and she said, "You can sleep in the shed." And I was so drunk, I thought it was a good idea. It was the middle of winter, and not long later, I had pneumonia, ended up in hospital, and the nurse asked me, "How much do you drink?" And it was the first time I'd kind of put the numbers together. And I think we worked it out at about 90 units per week at that time I was drinking.
How much is a unit? Like a gallon?
I don't know what it is in the US.
Is it like, but usually a drink is like 8 ounces. You guys have that weird metric system, so we don't understand it.
It was around about 30 pints of beer a week that I was drinking.
So I think in America, the legal term for that is a shit ton.
Yeah. I grew up in a small village in North Wales where there wasn't much to do except kick a ball around the wet, muddy field or sit in a pub and drink.
But I was joking about English drunks earlier. But I mean, it's pretty true, right? I mean, in the UK, the alcohol culture is very strong and very ubiquitous, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, it doesn't matter which part of the country you're in. I think that there are parts of the UK where it seems to be stronger than other places. But I think you're right. I think across the whole of the UK, it's a problem. And I think environment is huge in that. There aren't so many places where people go to socialize, whether it was in the village pub, whether it was when I went to college.
Yeah, my guess, everything you do was going to be around alcohol. Somehow, some way it's tied in.
Exactly. I then went to university, more alcohol. Then I got my first job in like a busy design studio. We'd work as hard as anyone. And then straight after work, we go to the bar and then we drink until they kicked us out. I quit work and I went and traveled around the world for 4 years. It's that culture as well. You're in Vietnam or you're in Bangkok and it's just, a drinking culture. It's true that every single environment that I found myself in was completely focused around alcohol.
Yeah, I'm always interested in the cultural distinctions between all of us, right? In America, or like where I live in America, I think there is a drinking culture. Like you have a couple drinks at night, or maybe a happy hour or dinner, but it's not anything like you guys have in Europe. I mean, Europe is just like every single thing you do is drinking. I think America's maybe more eating oriented. That's why we're all fat, because everything's around food. But you guys really, it is always alcohol.
I think that there are some. I think the further south you get, the more sophisticated it becomes. Like in Barcelona, people drink, but it's more centered around food. Like you say, it's a glass of wine with your lunch or a beer with your dinner, and dinner takes like 3 hours.
Yeah, the Spanish are generally more sophisticated than you soccer hooligans from Wales. I mean, let's be honest, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the further north you get, especially Germany. My wife's actually German, so that didn't help. When we started dating, I got to go to Germany, and they have great beer as well. And like when you get to places like Sweden, and it's just dark.
Right. Right. Exactly. It gets dark at 3 o'clock, and.
And so there's not much to do apart from drink. But yeah, the UK diabolical drinking kind of culture.
So at 30 units a week, you're drinking 4 units plus a day. I mean, you're a lush, Mike. Let's be honest.
Well, what we would do is on a Wednesday night, we'd go to what you would call the liquor store and buy whatever was cheap. So it would be 8 half-liter cans of lager and drink those in 2 hours so that we'd be drunk by the time we got to the club.
You got to get preheated. You got to get preheated for a night out. I agree.
Exactly. And we do that on a Wednesday. We do it again on a Friday. And then we do it again on a Saturday. And then in between that, when we were kind of on our hungover days, we'd just be in the local pub, just having a few pints just to keep us going until the next big night.
So let me ask you, when you were drinking that amount, was it just something to do, like because that's what your friends were doing? Or was it more, did you need it? Did you need it to get yourself ready to talk to girls? Or was there something to it psychological?
No, absolutely something to do. Right. I don't think there was ever a time where I thought I was an alcoholic. I don't think there was ever a time where I felt psychologically like I needed alcohol, like I was addicted to it. It was literally just what you did. I was probably drinking less than some of my friends.
Oh, no. I mean, it always catches up with you. I mean, the things you could do when you're in your 20s and 30s stop drastically. I mean, you run into, Mount Everest in your 40s. So what was the point that you said, all right, I've got to do something about it? Was it when you had to tell that woman how much you drank? Was that like the light turning on for you?
No, that was only kind of the beginning. And it didn't deter me at all, really. I didn't have any kind of backstory that would lead me down, this troubled alcohol kind of abuse. But what did happen was that I was very sporty and I had kind of clear goals that I wanted to do something sporty. And when I was 16, in the year I was going to do my what we call the GCSEs to finish high school, I was diagnosed with having 2 detached retinas. Well, the optician said, you're going to go to hospital right now. Tomorrow you're going to have an operation, or in a day or 2, you could be completely blind. I think I've got a few suspicions. My brother and I used to box a little bit.
That would do it. That would do it.
Just for fun in the house. But I also used to play a lot of soccer, a lot of football. I got a ball square in the face. And I noticed that my eyesight had kind of got a little bit funny after that. The specialists in the hospital said, okay, we've never seen 2 retinas detached at the same time. It's usually only 1. So this is unique. We're going to put you in the operating table tomorrow. And that was in my final year of high school. I had to take 3 months off high school. They told me, that's it. There's no more sports for you. You can't do physical education anymore. You can't play football. You can't do running. You can't go to the gym. That's it.
Sounds like all you could do is drink.
The only thing I could do for 3 months was sit in a dark room and recover from this operation. So I got a guitar and learned how to play guitar. And that kind of led me down a completely different path than the path I would have perhaps gone down, which was the path of sports and fitness. And so instead I joined a band. What comes with that
girls
is girls, marijuana,
And girls,
speed, girls.
girls. Yeah.
We had an absolute amazing time. I'm not anti-alcohol.
Right. Clearly.
Yeah, I'm not going to be bashing my son over the head when he wants to have a drink. From a social point of view, when you're young, it's a rite of passage, I think.
Well, look, also it's everything in moderation too. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that, you know, if you do too much of them, they're bad. Almost everything out there that if you do too much of it, it's bad, right? It's about, you know, it's
Exactly.
approaching it in a healthy way and kind of a reasonable way, which sounds like in your early years wasn't really happening.
Worked very hard, then drank a lot, worked very hard, drank a lot, traveled around the world, drank a lot. We eventually quit our jobs completely and
And
moved
drank a
to
lot.
Thailand.
I thought I was detecting a little bit of a pattern here. So I thought maybe
Yeah, traveled around every country in Asia, went to Nepal and tried to climb the kind of backside of Everest on our own.
you're too drunk to do it.
Yeah. uh, we paid like €300 to cross the Atlantic. And there was free alcohol on that ship for 2 weeks.
Mike,
And
do you ever work? Is work a part of your like, what's going on? I mean, you traveling for years and years. I mean, that's fantastic. How'd you guys support yourselves?
and take a one-way ticket to Thailand, buy a laptop each, and see if we can make it work. So it's what we did. We flew to Thailand with a laptop, and within a few months, we had clients. My wife is a translator. I'm a graphic designer, so we started to pick up work, and we were only working a few hours a week. We needed 500 US per month to cover everything.
Yeah, that'll get me through dinner tonight, maybe, if I don't have dessert.
We would just take our motorbike and just disappear for 3 days up in the mountains in northern Thailand and go and visit Burma and the Golden Triangle and go and get lost in all the tea plantations around there.
Okay, I mean, Mike, it sounds like you had the greatest life in the history of lives at this point. I mean, I wouldn't stop drinking. I'd keep doing exactly what you were doing. Like, so take me forward to the point where you said something's going wrong, because nothing's going wrong yet. Everything in your life is fantastic, and I'm jealous and I hate you. So get me to the point where you're miserable and unhappy, because that's when I kind of like start to.
I was extraordinarily anxious. I had a big problem with anxiety. I'd lost a lot of weight. I was about 135 pounds. The anxiety was due to poor diet, poor sleep, no kind of motivation, no idea what I wanted to do in life, too much alcohol, too much marijuana, too much speed, just living a kind of deprived life, really.
You really don't sound deprived. I really, you might need a different word besides deprived. I mean, my goodness.
We were getting our $500 that we needed to live. And don't get me wrong, that is a beautiful place to be in. Just to earn the money you need to go and experience the world, to live each day, jump on a motorbike and just the wind rushing through your hair. It was the best.
Well, I think that's the ideal, right? I mean, people who go out in their early adult years, if you have the chance to do it before the kids, before the responsibilities, before you got to give up the booze, I mean, that's the time to do it. And you guys did it. Sounds great.
After all that motion and traveling, we came to a stop. And I really went, I'm 40. I'm about to become a dad. And at that point, I can't tell you exactly how this happened, but 9 months later, my son arrived.
Well, I can tell you how it happened. If you'd like graphs or charts, I can do all that for you.
I completely screwed up my back.
I mean, look, if your back lasts until you're 40, congratulations. You're a healthy guy. I mean, you have 15 years on me.
This child is on his way. I don't have any money. I've just arrived in this town. I don't really speak the language. This apartment is good for swinging half a cat. The enormity of all of that, everything just kind of like, shoo, this back pain, this enormity of I'm about to become a dad, that anxiety that I'd had in my 20s just returned.
Growing up is terrible, you know? I mean, as you go through these different, and that's really what this podcast is all about, right? It's about that stage where you've gone through your adult years, you're happy and healthy and doing a lot of things. And all of a sudden you look around one day and go, what the fuck? What is going on? Why am I pulling these hairs out of my ear? Why is my back hurting? Why, you know, it does kind of hit you like a ton of bricks and you don't even realize until it happens.
Everything else in my life, I just thought, oh yeah, it'll come together at some point. It'll come together at some point.
Let me ask you, Mike, when you were a kid, what age, if you remember, I actually have a little story about that, but what age was it that you thought was old? Like, I'm going to be old when I'm blank. Because I can tell you mine, when I was growing up, I was going to be 32 years old in the year 2000. And I remember thinking, like, 32 years, can you imagine? Am I going to be breathing? I mean, I hope I make it that long. And then all of a sudden you look around and you're like 40 and 50 and you're going, what the fuck? What just happened? And you still feel like you're that same 6-year-old kid looking out to when you're going to be 30, right?
That's one weird thing, I think. Well, when you look in the mirror and you see your face and everything's changed, but you're still the same you who was a kid.
Okay, so you get this big realization, the kid's coming, the back's hurting, you're drinking, all these things are happening. What do you do? What do you say?
The first thing I did was I went to see a physio. Pretty quickly, she diagnosed my back as a sacroiliac joint issue.
Sacroiliac.
Sacroiliac, that's the one.
So you're thinking sexual-iliac. You were thinking about the hookers again. So yeah, I've got you right thinking along the sides of me.
She fixed that pretty quickly. She told me in no uncertain terms, your posture, the strength in your hamstrings, your lower back, everything is absolutely diabolical. I used to run cross country in school. And I haven't run since 1989. I was like, okay. So I signed up for a 10K race and I trained for it and I finished the race. And my back kind of healed itself as I got stronger, as I did the exercises. And I was like, oh, this is like a miracle.
Well, I'll tell you, it does sound like a miracle. Because I got to tell you, Mike, when I was still playing sports in my 40s, I played a lot of softball and golf. Like as I started deteriorating, when I would do those sports, I could barely walk afterwards. Like me jumping into sports was not an easy thing. That's actually a time when I realized, hey, things are changing. I got to do something better for myself.
She gave me a program of simple back exercises, leg exercises, hamstring exercises, and just said, swimming, running, get to work on those hamstrings. The whole journey of my life since that retinal detachment, I didn't know what I want to do. I felt like a bit of a fraud when I was playing the music. I felt like a bit of a fraud when I was working in the design studio. You know, imposter syndrome, we all kind of suffer from imposter syndrome, but I generally felt like...
I have it every time I'm on this podcast. Don't worry about it.
But I was reading, I was like, I just need to carry on doing what my mum was doing, which was helping people. So I had this kind of idea. I'm going to start a website, a blog, whatever, and it's going to be called Smashing 50. And the reason why it was called Smashing 50 was at the time I was trying to run the 10-kilometer running race in 50 minutes. I wanted to smash the 50-minute barrier. Less about the running and more about the goal that when I reach 50, I don't want to be here where I am now, anxious, broke, worried about the future, not having an idea of what my purpose is, my passion. I want to have a good body. I want to be strong. I want to be fit. I want to be wealthy, and I want to have all of those things. And so I still remember I typed into Google personal development. And I was like, one of the first things that popped up, of course, was Tony Robbins. So I ordered one of his books and I ordered another one of his books. And I found a few courses online and most of it was pretty good, but it didn't speak to me. It was very feminine. It was a very kind of huge kind of feminine audience. So I was like, why don't I start this website called Smashing 50? It's all about the vision of, going through your 40s with a vision of reaching 50 in the best shape of your life, rather than reaching 50 and going, oh my God, is this it? Is this what I'm going to have to deal with for the next 10, 15, 20 years?
Well, yeah, I can tell you, Mike, I mean, I definitely thought a lot of the same things, when you did in your 40s and I said, I'm going to have all these things going on when I'm 50. And, but now I'm 55. So now I'm going to do Smashing 60. I'm going to steal your thunder a little bit. How old are you now?
I'm 48 now.
Okay. Are we smashing 48?
In some aspects, absolutely.
And what I hear a lot when I interview people is when they change their mind away from focusing inward to outward, when things really start to change. The focus on service and helping people, somehow it radiates back to you times 100.
I don't believe there was ever a point where I was an alcoholic. That was just what people did. We just, all
30
people
units,
do.
30 units a week, Mike. I mean, you may have been an alcoholic. I hate to tell you, it's possible.
90 units.
Nine, that's even worse. You were definitely an alcoholic. You kidding me? I hate to burst your bubble.
So I thought, why don't I try taking a break from alcohol? But I was quite motivated because the feeling that I'd had from that party was pretty strong within me. Do you know what? this actually feels pretty good. Maybe there's something in this. So that was October, November, December. That was 3 months.
Those are 3 big drinking months too. I mean, that's, pretty impressive.
Exactly. Well, New Year's Eve, I got myself a glass of champagne and went, yes.
Yeah, New Year's Eve doesn't count.
3 months with no alcohol. Have a glass of champagne, have another glass of champagne. And I woke up on the 1st of January and I was like, I feel like shit.
No, it's amazing with drinking when you don't do it. It's like a muscle, like everything else. And when you don't do it, to have 1 or 2 drinks just wipes you out. Now I look at alcohol and I get a hangover. It's horrible for me.
And I just never kind of put 2 and 2 together. Well, here I was 3 months after taking a break and I was like, you know what? Why don't I try and do the whole of 2020 without alcohol? Of course, we didn't know what was going to happen with the pandemic or anything like that. Not drinking while we were locked down was, well, obviously easier.
Easier? Wait, hold on a second. I mean, pandemic made 85% of the world drunks. I mean, there really was nothing else to do.
But it made it easier for me because I was already on the journey.
Right.
Because
so you weren't seeing friends, you weren't going out to clubs, you weren't doing all things that were involved around drinking before.
Then at the end of 2020, I made a little 3-4 minute video and I just posted it to YouTube. And I'd never really made a video before, so I didn't know what I was doing. And it got 67,000 views in a couple of weeks.
Mike, if our podcast here doesn't hit 5 digits very quickly, I'm going to be very upset with you. So,
Smashing 50 is a space for middle-aged men who want to get fitter, healthier, happier. It's like this pill. If you said to people, here's a pill, it's going to help you feel less stressed. It's going to help you have more energy. It's going to help you lose weight. It's going to help you exercise more. All of these things, then people will be like, where do I buy it? It's like, well, you don't buy it. You just stop drinking alcohol. Right. You'll be more focused. All of those things that you say you've got no time for, alcohol was the biggest thief of my time and my energy than anything. I don't advise anyone who's like, clearly an alcoholic and who's physically addicted to alcohol. They need to go and see a doctor for professional help. But if you're a middle of the road drinker,
if you're just like your standard soccer hooligan,
exactly, yeah,
you only beat people up on the weekends. And
exactly, yeah, and you're not in prison for the knife crimes or anything like that. And then sorry, I lost track.
Every time you say knife crimes, I laugh too.
We're talking about personal growth. We're talking about beliefs. We're talking about your identity. When I say, oh yeah, I don't drink.
You have no friends.
I have no friends. The response is always the same. They go, there's no way I could give up drinking. And then you can insert any nationality you want.
Right.
I'm Swedish. I'm Scottish. I'm Welsh. I'm Irish. I'm American.
I'm human.
I'm human. There's no way I could give up drinking alcohol because this is who I am. And that's what it is. There's an identity within us all that is like, I know, but this is who I am. And so I question within the course that identity and can you step outside of that to become more of an individual?
When you get in your middle ages, so much of what I believe happens is you have to unlearn all the things you've been learning for the last 40 some odd years. You just create habits, you create certain things that you do, and you can't imagine not doing them, whether they're healthy or unhealthy or whatever. So being able to kind of break the trend of whatever rut or groove you've gotten yourself into, that's, I think, kind of the basis of what being in your middle ages is, because you are fundamentally changing. You do need to change the way you are, just physiologically, intellectually. And that's a hard thing to unlearn, an entire lifetime of experiences.
Absolutely. From when you're 16, 17, 18, you learn that this is your normal behavior. It's that kind of group mentality. It's like you have to be part of the group or you're excluded kind of thing. Especially when you're young, it's that rite of passage. But when you get to, or for me, especially when I hit 40, 44, and actually, it was like, does this act of drinking alcohol still serve me? Am I better off without it? And it was only when I did that little experiment, 28 days, that I was able to go, hang on a minute, I'm better off without it and I can live without it. At no point have I said, or do I say in the course, that you should think, this is it, I'm not drinking ever again, because you just can't.
That's way too big. That's way too big for anybody, Mike. Let's be honest.
Can't deal with that. I think Dan needs a drink.
Exactly. Sign me up. Well, okay, so let's start wrapping up. Where are you right now, Mike, on the continuum? You've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. You started the site. How have you changed your own life?
My own mental health,
Sure.
my own happiness, my own physical fitness is 3,000 times better than where I was. If I'd kept drinking, would I have actually taken the steps that have brought me to this podcast tonight?
Plug your website one more time. Where are you?
It's smashing50.com. So it's smashingfifty.com. We're just, out there trying to tell a story and get as many middle-aged men healthier, fitter, and happier as we can.
Yeah, we need to. We definitely need to do that. Mike, it's been great talking to you today. I really appreciate your message. You've been on a great journey. I'm going to be excited to look at Smashing 50 myself. I'm not running a 10K, but I'll watch you do it. And we'll keep in touch. Let's hear how you're going. You haven't hit 50 yet. I want to know. I want to interview you again on the day you turn 50. Let's see how many goals you've accomplished by then.
Excellent. Well, I'm running the marathon in March, so that's my next one.
We'll keep in touch, and we'll keep up with those results. And thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been Dan and Dante and Mike Maddox, a middle-aged mess. We'll see you next time.